Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Inside Out Smile. I'm your host, Dr. Amber Q, and again, there's no music on this podcast episode. And I think until there is a ceasefire, until the genocide stops, there won't be any music on this podcast because it just doesn't feel right. What is happening to the world? I think I've said this before, that I do feel as if I'm living in some alternate sort of reality where some people seem to think it's okay to unalive babies and children. And so far, the death toll, I think, is approaching 10,000, which almost 4,000 of those are children. And the videos that I've seen are they're very, very distressing. And I think during this time, there's so much that we're all learning. We're learning that some people really have so much compassion. Some people appear to be on the wrong side of history. And the question is, what side are we going to be on? Each one of us. I am educating myself because there's so many things that I don't know, in terms of geopolitics, and it seems to me that of course everything is always about money. Oppressed people are oppressed because of the resources on their land. And I know that in the last few episodes I've been urging everyone to read, and I will continue that plea to please read and educate yourself. And honestly, if you are being silent, whoever you are, wherever you are, if you are silent, then, you're complicit in genocide. This is the problem. People need to speak up. And they're wonderful people speaking up all over the world. And I do feel that people sort of, have the power to, because obviously politicians govern over people. And if people exert that pressure by stating that they want a ceasefire, I believe that it's achievable. And so, whatever is illegal in your country, do that. Whether it's a protest or march, don't break the law, but make your voice heard. Or as some protesters are doing, I think in some countries, they're not actually saying anything, but it's just sort of their presence, and then maybe there's one person that's speaking. So there are lots of, organisations that are getting marches together, loads of Jewish brothers and sisters as well that are doing things, people of all faiths and all ages. I know that in the UK, the demographic has been changing, whereas initially it was sort of more younger people, and now it's sort of older people as well, which is amazing. All people of kind of different ages, different faiths, all coming together because we're appalled. Because really, it just comes down to basic humanity and decency. And I think there's so many people that have, been brainwashed by mainstream media, wherever they are in the world. And now people are seeing for themselves the truth. And this is the great thing about social media, even though various platforms are trying to silence the voices of the oppressed. I mean, who does that? Somebody with an agenda. And this is the thing, isn't it? Politicians are meant to be there for the good of people. But whatever's happening now is not going to lead to peace. You can't just commit genocide. It's not going to contribute to world peace in any way. In fact, it's making the world more and more unsafe, not least for the people who, of course, are the victims of the genocide themselves. And the videos are just heartbreaking. The posts are heartbreaking. Of course, people are being killed constantly, and journalists are being targeted, doctors, hospital, churches. It's totally depraved. So what side of, society, what side of history are we going to be on? And more than that, if you're a person of faith, when God asks you on the day of judgment, what are you going to say? Did you try in your own way to do whatever you could to raise the voice of people who are being killed and murdered as I speak. And when I say people, they're mostly children. I don't know kind of the full stats. I don't want to say 60%, but a lot of the people in Gaza, because they get killed, it's a very young population. They're babies, newborns, children that are being murdered. It's awful. And of course, because of the siege, there's no water, there's no food, there's no medicine. They're dying of either being hit by sort of airstrikes, banned illegal chemical weapons. And then, of course, there's no food, there's no water, there are no medical supplies. The hospital system, the medical, the healthcare system collapsed, I think, over a week ago. So please educate yourself. Yes, there are books, there are people, whether it's Gabor Mate, whether it's, oh my gosh, there's so many people that I could recommend. I think I recommended some previously on the last episode, but just, have a look on all of the social media platforms and donate to Doctors Without Borders. I mean, the UN is speaking up, Doctors Without Borders, Amnesty. But the reality is you don't need those organisations to tell you about the horror of what's happening. You don't need to be a Muslim. You just need to be a human and to have a heart, quite frankly, to see babies being killed and people treated in this way and to be called human animals. That's disgusting. It's depraved. It's psychotic. So I hope that whoever's listening to this is speaking up, and just, please write to your politicians for, we need to have a ceasefire. This killing needs to stop. We need to be promoting peace in the world, not the opposite. Until the next episode, let's all try and save lives.